Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dimes Unlimited Pod. Today, we're going to get into a couple things. We're going to get into our picks for reserves for the All-Star Game. And then we've got top 5 draft prospects, their comparisons, what they're good at, what they're bad at. And then we also have fantasy sell highs, sell lows, and waiver wire pickups. Stay tuned. All right, Gabe. So first off, let's start with the All-Star Game.
Yes.
So obviously the starters for the West, we've got Luka, Steph, LeBron, Kawhi, and Jokic. And then in the East, we've got Kyrie, Beal, KD, Giannis, and Embiid. So today we put together lists trying to figure out who we think should be reserves. So in the All-Star Game, there's obviously 3 front court players, 2 back court players, and 2 wildcard spots, which means any position.
Yes.
All right, so do you want to start with that, or do you want me to start?
I think I'm going to give it a go here with my West reserves. All right, so for my 2 backcourts, I got Dame and D. Mitch. I feel like those are pretty obvious.
Those are obvious. I think everyone has those.
Then I got, for the front court, AD, Gobert, and DeRozan.
DeRozan?
Yes.
All right, you want to go into that for a little bit?
He's averaging a career high in assists, 7 assists. He's leading a Spurs team that should be a lottery team right now, and they're winning games in a Western Conference.
Right now, they're sitting at the 6th seed with 16 and 11.
They're winning games, and it's because of DeRozan. He's their point forward, and he's doing it off of high efficiency, considering he's also taking threes this year, too. So I just think he's been the Spurs Swiss Army knife in their league.
If you think about it, if you were to put the Spurs in the Eastern Conference, right now they would be the like 3rd seed.
Oh, 3rd seed. Yes.
Yes. They're right behind the Nets, just barely behind them, but above the Bucks, Celtics, Pacers, Raptors, Knicks, Bulls, Heat, like all these teams. And DeRozan has really been the guy to do it.
And I've always liked DeRozan. I'm a big fan of DeRozan's game. He plays the game in just a beautiful type of way, mid-range game. I love it.
All right. So you got your 3 front court, you got your 2 back court. Now, who's your 2 wild card spots?
2 wild card. First, I have Devin Booker, who had a slow start to the season, but he's been picking it up. He's been picking it up a lot. And then I have Brandon Ingram.
Brandon Ingram. So you left Paul George off your list.
Yes, I did. That's probably a mistake, but we'll edit.
You could switch it out. You could switch it out real quick and move Ingram to your IR if you'd like.
Nah, I got someone from my IR that you're gonna be shocked by, I think.
All right. So are you moving Paul George in?
Yeah, I'm moving Paul George in.
And who are you taking out?
I'm taking out Ingram.
Ingram. All right. So for your picks, front court, you have Anthony Davis.
I'm a big Devin Booker guy too, so that plays into it.
All right. So for the West, you have Anthony Davis, Gobert, Paul George, DeMar DeRozan, Damian Lillard, Donovan Mitchell, and Devin Booker.
Yes.
Now, because AD won't be playing in the All-Star game, obviously on the West there's going to be an IR spot.
I'm gonna have to
so for your IR spot, who are you picking? I can't wait for this.
All right. My IR spot to replace AD is Jonas Valanciunas. Yes.
Was not expecting that.
Jonas Valanciunas. He's been playing great, I think. And, listen, he's in a crowded Western Conference. Where are the Grizzlies at right now? They're a losing team, aren't they?
The Grizzlies are 9th.
So they're still in the playoff.
They're in the play-in tournament. They're couple games behind the Warriors, but also they haven't played as many games because of all the postponements.
Yeah.
So they're just above 500.
Yeah. For me, Valanciunas' efficiency, he's a 58% field goal shooter, and he shoots mid-ranges. He's got a lot in his bag. He's going 17 and 11 right now, 2 assists, about a steal and a block. And I don't know. I just really like his game. He's an efficient center who you can run an offense through. But I don't know.
That one surprised me. He wasn't even on my honorable mention list, but I see where you're coming from.
That's my hot take.
In order for the Memphis Grizzlies to be where they're at over 500, when John Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. were out, he really held down the team during that time. So I understand that. And the crazy thing about All-Stars this year, right? I read an article. It was, I forget who it was by, but he said there's 77 players who should be possible All-Stars this year. It's a little insane. He had even a case for Harrison Barnes going in. But What's crazy is also there's 40 players in an NBA record to score over 20 points per game this season.
Yeah.
It's insane. Everything's inflated. We haven't seen numbers like this in our lifetime. So, with that being said, I'm going into my West.
Okay.
So, for my front court players, I have Anthony Davis, obviously, Paul George, and Gobert.
Yeah.
I think you had the same guys in your front court.
Yeah.
All right, so for my guards, I have similar Donovan Mitchell and Damian Lillard.
Wait, who did you have? Do you have DeRozan too?
I'm not there yet.
Oh, okay.
So for my guards, I have Damian Lillard and Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell, by the way, is having an amazing season. Amazing.
Leading the best team in the league. He's the best player on the best team right now.
Won 19 of their last 20 games.
Yeah.
They're balling. Damian Lillard, this is a little off segment, but I think he's third in MVP voting right now. If you were to start today. All right, so obviously, number one or number two can flip. Each person has different. It's Embiid or LeBron.
Yeah, Embiid or LeBron. I have
Both
LeBron
are
over Embiid.
I have LeBron over Embiid right now, too. Just slightly, he's holding down the team while AD is out. But I think Damian Lillard to take the Trailblazers to the 4th seed. Now, 4th seed in the Western Conference would be 2nd seed in the East. They almost have the same record as the 76ers. Is right there. So he's literally helping his team almost as much as Embiid without CJ McCollum and Yusuf Nurkic.
Dame's also
two of their best 3 players.
Dame's also coming off 3 30-pointer up double-doubles in a row.
He is
That's
on
amazing.
fire. I think more people should put him in the MVP conversation.
Averaging
Little
30
off
points,
topic. Yeah.
8 assists.
He's almost up where Bradley Beal is, but he's doing it for a winning team.
Personally, I have Jokic third.
Okay. Which is cool, but the Nuggets are the 7th seed right now. That's the only reason why I don't have him third.
Yeah, but I feel
you could also
still see them climbing.
You could also make a case for Steph, but Steph is the 8th seed right now. And I don't think, if you're in the bottom half of the conference, we've only seen it once in our lifetime with Russell Westbrook.
Yeah.
And the narrative was all there.
Probably, yeah.
It was KD leaving. I think that was more of a narrative MVP. But Dame should be right there. All right, little off topic, but back to my picks. So right now I have AD, Paul George, Gobert, Donovan Mitchell, and Damian Lillard. All right, so for my wild card spots, I picked, first, it was tough for me to pick between Devin Booker and Chris Paul. Obviously, they should be in there. They're the 5th seed.
I had trouble with that, but Devin Booker's my boy.
Yeah, they're the 5th seed right now, really helping them out. And Chris Paul's obviously made them the better team, right? Chris Paul has done everything for this team, plays on both ends. But in my case, if I have a guy who's taking the last shot, he's the go-to scorer, I'm putting Devin Booker in as my wild card spot.
Agreed.
All right, now for my other wild card spot, not as crazy as Jonas Valanciunas. Let's start that. But
Here's my IR spot.
I have Zion Williamson.
I can see that.
Now, Zion
might
Williamson is shooting close to 60% from the field. He's averaging over 25 points a game with 7 boards. Now, you could say he doesn't play defense very much. He's a lackluster defender. Improving, but we saw a lot from him at Duke. And he hasn't shown any of that defense on the Pelicans, which makes him and Steven Adams a bad front court duo. But the numbers he's putting up are insane. And I was thinking between him and Ingram, both put up great numbers. But I'm going to give Zion the little edge this season. And now I have one injury replacement. And I thought the best, again, I brought in DeRozan into this conversation. I brought in Mike Conley, even how well the Jazz are playing. He could easily be a third all-star. Another guy, Ingram, I brought in. Another guy, not many people are talking about, Shea. Shea is putting up really good numbers this season.
Yeah.
But if you're 14th in the West, I'm not going to give you a spot in mine. So with my injury reserve pick, I have Chris Paul.
I think that's better. I was trying to go with the same positional.
Yeah. I think the Suns have a lot of potential to mess some teams up in the playoff. And I think Chris Paul is a majority of the reason for it.
They could finish like a 4th or 5th seed. I like them a lot.
Yeah. And again, Darren Fox is solid. Darren Fox, I had serious consideration for. He's putting up crazy numbers for the Kings, who are fighting for a play-in tournament spot right now. They're one game behind the Mavericks for the 10th seed. But he has a lot of game to show. All right. So now we're going to the East Coast. You want to start us off, Gabe?
Yes, I will.
East Coast was really tricky this year.
Yeah, but I think my East Coast reserves are a little less controversial
than Jonas Valanciunas.
Jonas situation. So for my two reserves, I have Harden and Levine for the guards. Then I have Bam, Sabonis, and Drummond as my 3 front court.
You put Drummond in.
Yes, I did. And I'll tell you why later. And then my wild cards, Vooch and Trey.
So you're leaving Jaylen Brown off.
Yes, I am.
That is crazy. All right. You left a lot of good players off, but it's hard in the East.
It's very fucking hard.
It's very
Watch
hard.
my language.
Excuse his language. All right. So I'm on to the East. I'm going to give you my forwards. So Tatum, Middleton, and Sabonis. Mm-hmm. Middleton's having a 50-40-90 season. Sabonis is leading the Pacers to a 5th seed right now. No one is talking about him. I think he's putting up better numbers than Bam almost all around. So Sabonis is 21.5, 11.6 boards, and 5.7 assists. Which nearly compared to compared to Randall. Randall almost puts up identical numbers, but I was looking at their
looking amazing.
Randall is looking amazing. It was hard for me to choose between Sabonis and Randall. I went back and forth for probably 10 minutes trying to figure it out. But the thing that edged me out is their stats are almost identical. Mm-hmm. Like, they're right there. I think Sabonis is within 2 points of Randall. Sabonis out-rebounds him by 1 board and 0.2 assists, right?
I think Julius is a little more efficient.
But actually, no.
Really?
Julius Randle's shooting under 50% this season, just under. It's 48.
At the line?
At the line, I believe he is better than Sabonis.
About 82%.
82%. Sabonis is shooting around 71. Mm-hmm. It isn't great. But since their stats were almost identical, you give or take a few, right? I put Sabonis because he had the better record.
Yeah.
And that's what it came down to. Mm-hmm. All right, so those were my forwards. Middleton, I had a lot of trouble with. It was either him or Tobias Harris in that spot. Mm-hmm. Tobias Harris also having another 50-40-90 season. He is going crazy. Are you switching out Middleton for Drummond right now?
Yes, I am. I kind of had to rush to get through everything in, so I have some brain farts on this.
All right. So, I put Middleton in. He's having a 50-40-90 season, just slightly better than Tobias. Tobias is balling. He's their go-to option at the end of games.
26-6, too.
But
that's a solid stat line, especially when you got Drew Holiday and Giannis on the same team.
Middleton is having his best statistical season yet.
Yeah.
And since he's been an all-star the past 2 seasons, I have to give it to him. And when you look at games, they're only 3 games behind the 76ers. It's not that crazy. All right. So, on to my guards. So, for my guards, I obviously have Harden and Jaylen Brown.
Yeah.
Jaylen Brown has been holding down the Celtics while Jason Tatum. I'm getting there. All right. So, Jaylen Brown held down the Celtics, helped them get the 4 seed where they're at right now. Jaylen Brown he improves every season. Crazy stats. I don't think many people saw this from him. Mm-hmm. And he has surprised the whole league and taken them by storm. All right. So, on to my Western Conference. Not Western Conference. Wildcard spots. I have Levine, averaging 28 points per game. The knock people have on him is he's on the Bulls. They're the 9th seed right now. They're 12-16 as we're recording this. But he's putting up 28, 5, and 5.
Yeah.
It's hard to find that from any other player.
50% shooting.
Exactly. But here's the thing. If you're going to argue that Levine shouldn't be in the All-Star game because of his team's record, you got to take a step back and look at Beal.
Yeah, exactly.
Beal's putting up crazy numbers, but he's on the Wizards.
The second worst team in the league.
They're 13th in the East right now. And they're 9-17.
Oh, they're doing a little better than I thought they were.
And they put together a couple wins, but you got to take a step back. If you're not going to put Levine in the game, I don't think it's fair for you to put Beal in the game. And since Beal is starting, I think it's necessary to have Levine in the game. All right. So, enough with Levine. My last wildcard spot, I had so many guys that could go here. I really wanted to put Ben Simmons. His stats don't jump off the board at you. They're 16, 8, and 8. but he is the best perimeter defender in the league. He is in the running for defensive player of the year. And he is making impacts. Just came off a 40-point game while Embiid was out. He's been out the last 2 due to illness. But he has really improved. Not a lot of people talk about it. A lot of people at the beginning of the season, there was a meme going around that he hasn't improved since his rookie season. That was one of the worst comments I've ever heard. But he's having an amazing season. More people need to talk about him. He's a big reason why the Sixers are top of the conference. I was looking at Bam, but then again, the Heat aren't playing that well. The Heat are 12-17 right now. And Bam's doing all right, but I can't give you that last spot when you're 12-17, tied with who I'm going to put there, which is Trey Young.
Okay.
Trey Young is putting up crazy numbers. I hate his game, by the way. How he flops into people. But one of the best passers in the league. You can't take that away from him. He's leading the league in assists at, I believe, 11.4 right now.
Turnovers, I believe, with about 5.
Let's not talk about that. But he's putting up crazy numbers. So I had to squeeze him in. A lot of guys I wanted to put in. Jeremy Grant is having an amazing season. But they're the worst team in the East.
Yeah.
I can't put you in if you're the worst team in the East. Also looking at Vukovic. Vooch having another crazy season. Like every year we think he's going to take that drop off.
Yeah.
And he gets slightly better each year.
I'm waiting for the day he gets traded for the Magic.
Man, sucks. Like the Magic are putting him to waste. Mm-hmm. But all these guys, Bam, Randall. Randall was my hardest cut on the East Coast. He's putting up crazy numbers for a 7th seed Knick that shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
They should be one of the worst teams in the league right now.
Julius has been playing out of his mind.
Out of his mind. No one saw this from
Randall.
Randall.
Had that career game a couple days ago, I believe, or a couple games ago. Dropped like 40-something.
Yeah. He is balling. Now, are there any honorable mentions that I didn't get to?
Not that I could think of. I don't really have to.
I think I tried to cover most of them. A lot of people were saying Drew Holiday. Just to add another buck in there. But to be honest, he's the 3rd best buck.
Yeah.
I'm not putting $3 in the All-Star game when they're the 3rd seed and underachieving. You know, it hurt for me not to put another Sixer in there when they're the first in the East.
For me, my honorable mentions include probably, Ben Simmons for sure. And I had Jaylen Brown as my honorable mention.
I can see where you're going with Jaylen Brown. I just think he's a lock this year.
Yeah.
If he doesn't get it, the Beantown boys over there in Boston, they're going to be upset.
I don't have Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown in there, so I'll make some tweaks. But
Jason Tatum has missed a lot of the season.
Yeah.
But for this season, I'm not taking into account missed games as much. Mm. It's hard. KD started. How many games has he missed due to...
There's a narrative around him as well.
How many games has he missed this season? It's a lot due to COVID, and there's only so much you can control, right? Yeah. So in KD's case, he was in the car with someone that was unmasked, you know? Mm-hmm. It's tough. So, we're going to take a little break and get back to you with our fantasy picks. All right, and now to Gabe with our fantasy sleepers and so on.
All right, Chase, so I'm going to run a few names by you. I have a list of names here in the fantasy world that are very relevant. I'll start off with the sell highs. My first name on the sell high list is Kyle Anderson.
Kyle Anderson?
Yes, Kyle Anderson. Kyle Anderson, I'll give you his stats. Over the last 2 weeks, he's been a top 10 fantasy player. That's right, he's ranked 9th in the last 2 weeks, with percentages shooting 57% from the field, 85% from the line, 2.5 threes, 17.6 points, 4.9 boards, 3.6 assists, 2 steals, and a block.
Jeez.
With under 1 turnover a game. Now, for obvious reasons, I have him as the first sell high. What do you think of that?
I think that's a nice sell high. Mm-hmm. Now, Ja just came back. Obviously, his stats are going to go down a little. But Kyle Anderson's a solid player. I did not know he was top 10.
Yes, he has been recently. Another thing is, If you try to trade him, the one thing is that his name doesn't have that much trade cachet to it.
He doesn't.
People aren't going to be looking at him, and even if they look at his stats, they're not going to want to deal for Kyle Anderson. So, for me, I would probably just ride him until the wheels fall off, honestly. But he is a sell-high target for sure. You can't beat Kyle Anderson top 10 and not be a sell-high.
All right.
The next name for the sell-highs I have down here is Chris Boucher of the Toronto Raptors.
Okay.
His stats have been dropping off recently, but he's still delivering top 50 value. But the reason I say this is because the Raptors are targeting a center at the trade deadline, and I don't think Boucher is going to be getting moved by the Raptors. So I can see him getting some obsolete minutes in the future. Not obsolete.
Yeah, I could see him getting 20 minutes a game.
That's what he's getting now. He's getting about 23 minutes a game. He has a lot of per minute upside, but once you get a real center in there other than Aaron Baines, he's probably going to be averaging 15, somewhere around there.
Okay.
And you just can't get much out of that. So, yeah, he's another sell high. And then my last sell high I have is Al Horford, who's 36 years old.
Yeah.
Averaging very good numbers. I think he's averaging about 16, 5, and 5. But the problem is he's old. He's 36. He's on a rebuilding team.
Doesn't play back-to-backs.
Doesn't play back-to-backs. That's another thing. And, to be frank, he might get shut down later in the season. He could get shut down.
Good.
So
if a minor injury happens to Al Horford, they could sit him for extended periods.
Yeah.
Look at what happened with Steph last year.
Yeah.
All right. So you want to take it on to the next section, Gabe?
All right, so for my next section, I have two buy low names right here. The first one is my very own Michael Porter Jr.
Okay.
Last two games, he started to pick up his game. I need to pull this out just to...
Now, Michael Porter Jr., I actually tried to buy low him off of you.
Yeah, which was really dumb. I don't even remember what the trade was.
It was
something crap.
He came off of a 0-point game.
Yeah, he went 0 for 8. But since then, he scored 14 points with 2 steals and a block, and then 22 points with 3 threes off of 50% shooting percentages. So
Okay.
he's starting to come back, but if you can squeeze in a buy low offer, now's the time to do it before he starts really taking off. Because in my mind, he has early round upside. He does.
Yeah.
Statistically speaking, he's a beast.
And I could see the Nuggets moving Will Barton to make Michael Porter Jr.
That
starter.
would be very
How many
nice.
minutes per game is Michael Porter Jr.
I
getting
think
right
he's
now?
getting about 30.
30? Okay.
Yeah, somewhere around 30. He gets anywhere from 30 to 25.
Okay. So 25 to 30 range, solid amount of minutes, but could go up depending on what Denver does. All right.
So for my next buy low, I have one Andre Drummond, who was one of my all-star guys earlier in the podcast. But Drummond, for the simple fact that he's being sat right now. His last couple games were pretty shitty. He was averaging 13 and 9 in the last 2 weeks before he got sat. So once
What was that sound effect again?
So once he gets traded, I think he's going to return to giving you not early, but mid-round value. And if you're taking free throws, that easily goes up to like top 20 value. He was averaging 17.5 points with like 15 rebounds before he started going down and everything started going on. With about a steal and a half and a block and a half.
All
You
right.
can't get those numbers anywhere else, really.
So I have some questions for you. Depending on where Drummond moves, what would his stats look like?
Well, you got to name a team.
Because there's rumors he's going to the Nets, the Kings.
Now, if you're a fantasy owner, you do not want him to go to the Brooklyn Nets. You don't want him to go to the Nets.
That's what you got to bank on
Yeah.
if you're trying to buy low for Drummond.
Yeah, you
Now,
got to take a risk.
The deal is, I don't think it would not be smart for the Nets to pick up Drummond. They need a defensive big that could actually play because DeAndre Jordan.
Cap, too. You wouldn't be able to buy
And you
other
don't have
defenders.
very much to give for Drummond. You've got Joe Harris to try to match Cap. You've got all those guys. Dinwiddie, yeah, I forget about that. But they applied for the player exception, so I'm not sure if they could deal him.
Oh, I think they got that, actually.
Yeah, they did. But they don't have much salary, so I don't think it's likely he goes to the Nets.
Yeah. If he went to the Nets, he'd be averaging
So
12.
we're looking Nets. I could also see the Celtics trying to make a move for him.
Celtics, you wouldn't really want him to go to the Celtics. Celtics have a ton of offensive weapons.
Now, what's the ideal place for him to go? to increase your fantasy value?
I would say to the Kings.
The Kings.
Kings. Or the Raptors.
Okay.
The Raptors, he'll get a ton of fucking defensive stats because they run their defense through big men. Whether he's a good defensive big man or not, he's going to be right in the middle of it. Yeah. And then the Kings, he'll just put up stats. That's really all you can say about that. He's going to put up mad stats if he goes to the Kings.
All right. And I agree. I think he'd actually be nice on the Raptors. He would definitely put up good fantasy value.
Yeah.
All right. On to the next section.
All right, moving on to the waiver wire. I have two names. My rule is that if you're a waiver wire pickup for this podcast, you have to be 50% or lower owned.
Okay.
In the leagues. Number one, I have Saddiq Bey.
Saddiq Bey,
rookie,
went off last week. I think he got Player of the Week in East. I think last week.
Mm-hmm. Now he was 9% owned last week, and now he's 43% owned. So if you do want to get him, you better get him while the getting's hot.
Exactly.
Last 2 weeks he's averaging 55% from the field, 87% from the line, 3 threes, 15 points, 5 boards, and about a steal.
That's solid.
That is very
especially
solid.
Off of a guy on the waivers. You don't see that very
That's
often.
good for top 60 value.
Yeah.
And obviously, he won't be. That won't be kept up, the 55% from the field.
Obviously.
He'll probably be shooting closer to around somewhere like 45, 46, something like that, with maybe 2 threes. But still
solid
guy
value.
that you're going to need, especially after the trade deadline, because you don't know what's going to happen with Blake Griffin. He's already sitting, but, that's another reason. Blake Griffin, he's out. Saddiq Bey's getting those minutes. So
exactly.
Watch out for Saddiq Bey. The next guy, the last guy for the waiver wire is one Jay Crowder, who's been owned by 11% more people this week than last week. He's 44% rostered now in Yahoo leagues. And he's been putting up top 30 value. He's been shooting 48% from the field with 3 threes, 12 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, and a block with 0.2 turnovers in the last 2 weeks. That is efficiency. That's great. That's fantasy efficiency right there, especially with the low turnovers like that. You don't find that anywhere else. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think Jay Crowder is solid.
Yeah.
A great pickup. He went off the last couple games, which is probably, I wanted to go back. This is probably one of the reasons why Mikal Bridges is a good candidate for a buy low.
Yes. Talk about that.
With Jay Crowder going off, I believe Mikal Bridges, when he is playing well, is a top 50 player in fantasy. Get you steals. He's actually averaging a block per game. Yeah. So he'll give you steals, a block. He'll give you threes and around 15 points per game. So he is solid. Lately, he's been in a little bit of a rough patch. Not so much shooting, like percentages, but he's just not shooting very much. Now, when Jay Crowder, I don't think Jay Crowder could keep this up over a long period of time. Personally, he hasn't shown in a season he can. But Mikal Bridges will be a good buy low option. Yeah. If you get the best Mikal Bridges there is, he is top 50 easily.
Yeah, I'd say
right now he's
top
averaging
30 than top 50.
Right now it's a 3 and 14 points per game. Just tough. Fantasy owners, if you have him, try to hold on to him.
Yeah,
it's rough right now, but I believe he'll do a lot better. Okay,
so I'm done with the waiver wire pickups. Now I'm moving on to just the mentions I have.
The honorable mentions for waiver wire?
No, just mentions. Just mentions. Fantasy trends. Over the last week, Davis Bertans... last 2 weeks, he's been shooting 47.5% from the field with 4 threes a game, 14 points and 4 boards, and not much else. A steal a game. He was dropped by a lot of fantasy owners in the beginning of the season because he was shooting like 35% from the field. But he's picking it up.
And then he went out due to postponements.
Yeah, that too. The Wizards had that whole thing. They missed like 9 games in a row. Where do you stand with Davis Bertans as far as how he could maybe keep this up? Because historically, he's not that great of a, field goal percentage guy. He's usually a tank in field goal percentage.
Yeah, so if you've got a low efficient team and you want to boost up your threes, I think Davis Bertans is perfect.
Would you view him as a sell high?
If you have him, I don't see much you could get for him. Exactly. Because he hasn't shown that he can keep this up this season. right? He's had very minimal good games. Last 2 or 3 games have been solid.
Yeah, shout out to him on the 17th against Denver in the dub. He pulled up, a dub against Denver, by the way. He got 9 threes for 35 points and almost nothing else. He got a steal and a block, though. So he got some stocks going. Other than that.
But only thing is he will not be a great efficiency player for the season.
No.
Don't know if he's a guy you even keep on your team 3 weeks from now. Right? But if you need
an 8-team league, but you got to think about most of these people are in 12-team leagues.
That's true. If you think you're a low efficiency team and you want to boost your threes, Davis Bertans is perfect. Especially for a guy that's at the power forward position that can hit threes like that. You're getting versatile needs from a big position.
Yeah.
He'd be perfect for a team like that. Now, if you're close in field goal percentage during the week, right? And you have him, it's going to be tough to keep him around.
Yeah, it will be. You might consider benching him, honestly, instead of dropping him, because those threes are very valuable.
They are.
There's just so many of them. And if you're not really a strong 3-point team, he could single-handedly bring you up to the top tier.
He could. And if you're right there in field goal percentage, you could look to trade him. He won't have much value right now. But my key is to sell him on their peak. He just came off a 9 3-point game for 35 points. If you sell him at his peak, I don't see it getting much better than that. His value is at an all-time high right now.
Yeah. Now, my next guy is one of the more intriguing fantasy anomalies that I've seen since I've been playing fantasy, and that's Draymond Green, who over the last 2 weeks is averaging 2 made shots a game. He's got 6 points a game, 7 rebounds, almost 12 assists with nearly 2 steals and 2 blocks on 3 turnovers a game.
Now, I know Stephen Curry plays the point guard position, but Draymond Green is the point guard for the Warriors. He is dishing out assists so much. And does he give you defensive stats?
Yes, he does.
Can you go through that? What defensive stats does he give you?
1.7 steals and 1.6 blocks over the last 2 weeks for Draymond Green.
It's insane numbers.
Yes. His efficiency is lacking, but he barely takes shots. So, it doesn't really matter. That's not something that's going to hurt you, especially with that elite assist production and defensive stats production. You're not going to find that anywhere else.
No.
Now, do you think he can sustain that high of numbers?
I don't think he can sustain 12 assists a game.
No. Right now in the season, he's averaging 8.
I think that's right around where he'll be on the season. I could see him actually going a little bit higher than 8 due to how well he's been passing lately. Smartest player on the court almost at all times.
Yeah, working himself into shape. His defensive stats are starting to come up. He started a little slow in defensive stats. One of the guys that I missed on the waiver wire that I wanted in my shallow league.
What percent owned is he?
He's 89% owned. So
okay.
He's not
So if he's somehow available in your league, pick him up ASAP.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. That goes without saying. Yeah,
that's it for the fantasy?
That's
all
it for
right.
fantasy. Now we're going to move on to the draft.
All right, and now to the next segment, which is the top 5 prospects for the 2021 NBA draft. So now you could call them college prospects, but also this year, there's 2 guys in here that are from the G League. G League Ignite games have been interesting.
I think that's going to take the league by storm in a few years.
It could. I really see these guys improving and playing close to NBA level basketball. It's nice, especially with veterans like Jarrett Jack, Amir Johnson.
Yeah, no, you're getting to see them against NBA talent. NBA talent.
You see them against guys like Jordan Poole. They played a couple games ago. Jeremy Lin. Great players. All right. So now let's get to our top 5 list. We're just going to go over them for a bit. This is in no specific order. But we're going to give you our top 5 prospects. So first, let's start with someone we both love. I said there's no order, but I think this guy is the number 1 pick. Yeah, there's not much changing my mind.
Yeah.
So, Kade Cunningham.
Yes.
Kade Cunningham is one of the smartest prospects I've seen in a while. He makes passes that I didn't think was possible, but he also has a 3-point shot.
Yes.
Got a really good creation game.
He's shooting 44% from college 3 right now. 45% from college 3 right now.
Insane. He's Ben Simmons with a jump shot. The 6'8" guard. He can really play. And the thing that amazes me most about him, right? I've watched a lot of tape of these guys by now. The thing that impresses me most is every time I watch him, it looks like he's making the right play.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you see in a recent game against Iowa State, he was locking them down.
Mm-hmm.
Solid player. One of the best prospects I've seen in a while.
His split stats so far are 18.5 points, 6 rebounds, and about 4 assists off of 43% from the field goal range. But he's really the only guy.
Yeah, he's the only guy on that team.
And he's shooting 45% from college 3 and 85% from the line, which I think is a better indicator of his 3-point prowess than the 44%.
So let's dig into that a little bit more. So usually with college prospects, their free throw percentage is more telling than the 3-point percentage, just because the 3-point line is way closer.
Yeah.
So usually if a guy has good free throw percentage, it's a good tell sign that they could be a good shooter in the NBA. So Kade Cunningham, there's not much to say other than he is a beast.
Yes.
He's crazy good. He is Ben Simmons with a jump shot.
Yeah, 1.5 steals and a block as well. So you know
Crazy
he's got the
defender.
Prowess. I know he's a great defender. He's got the defensive IQ that's necessary to be a star in the league, and that's more important to me than offensive. Because you could look at Trey Young, who's a great offensive player, but I don't know. He doesn't have any defensive skills at all.
Yeah.
And for that reason, he's a wild card for my all-star thing. I don't know. Just
Okay.
a point I wanted to bring up because I'm not very happy with Trey.
And the cool thing about Kade, right, is since he's 6'8", he's shown he can play a little off ball.
Mm-hmm.
You could slide him to even the 3.
Yeah.
Say the
He's
Cavs.
220. You could play him as a small ball forward.
You could guard 1 through 4, switchable defender.
Mm-hmm.
You say the Cavs get the number 1 pick. They already have Sexton and Garland. You could slide in Kade at the 3 or 4.
Yeah.
It's an versatile player.
Yeah.
Now that's enough of us loving Kade and talking good about him. Let's move on to the next prospect.
Okay.
Now this prospect I'm really high on. I've watched every one of their games so far. Jonathan Kaminga. Now,
Kaminga is my favorite prospect other than Kade.
His first 2 games were insane.
Mm-hmm.
One high IQ player for a guy that's supposed to be a senior in high school.
Mm-hmm.
He's crazy. Gabe, you want to read me off his stats real quick?
He's not having the most efficient start. He's shooting about 41% from field goal range, but that's mainly because of his 3-point woes. He's shooting 21% from 3-point right now. But he's getting 1.3 steals with 1 block, 7 boards, and how many points is he averaging? Let me see here.
I believe he's averaging just over 20.
He's averaging 17.5 points.
Okay, so solid numbers.
He reminds me of a lot of different players in the league today.
Okay, so one comparison that keeps on coming up is Shawn Marion, right? He has the defensive capability to be up there with Shawn Marion. Mm-hmm. He's 6'8". You saw him in the first game of the season, I believe.
He got the handle than Shawn.
All right, hold on one second. We're talking defense right now. Yeah. All right, so he got the game-winning block in the first game of the season. Mm-hmm. Crazy. Now back to what you were saying. He is a way better ball handler than Shawn Marion was. This guy could almost run point guard. Mm-hmm. He can control the offense. He's good with pace. His 3-point shot is not there yet. This is probably the first time in his career he shot from the NBA 3-point line. He's 18, though.
He's also shooting 63% from the line.
It was just not a good indicator.
Physical freak, though.
Physical freak.
I can see him being like a little Giannis with a jumper.
Now,
a better jumper, at least.
The player I see in him, there's a little bit of 2 players in the league today. I see him as a Zion. Now, before you go crazy, it's the way he attacks the hoop. Mm-hmm. Zion will back into you and get the bucket or find the right move to get right by the hoop to make the score. Now, a little bit of the other player I see in him is Pascal Syakum. Now, Kaminga loves his spin move like Siakam does. Mm-hmm. And he gets in the lane, most of the time he's making that. Mm-hmm. When he's around the basket, he is deadly. Has some good step-back moves. Has solid player. You got anything to add on Kaminga?
I've been high on him for about a year now. I think he's going to be one of the better players in this draft when it's all said and done. Top 3 pick.
Yeah. And his first 2 games were amazing, right? He's kind of fallen off in the last couple. Mm-hmm. But he's playing against NBA talent.
Yeah.
This is the difference. A lot of these college guys, we got to take that into account. Mm-hmm. These college guys are playing other guys that will never make the league.
Yeah.
These guys are playing NBA-level talent. guys that have played on rosters. There are really good players in the G League that they're playing against. Mm-hmm. And I think Kaminga is something special. A little bit raw. Again, supposed to be a senior in high school.
Yeah.
So he's got a lot of time to grow. But Kaminga, we're both huge on.
Yeah, I love Kaminga.
All right, and talking about the G League, let's move to the other G League prospect, Jaylen Green. Now, Jaylen Green was projected to go number 2 in the draft at the beginning of the season. I could see Kaminga, Suggs, maybe Mobley passing him up. But those guys are all interchangeable right now. Only one we have set in stone is Kade Cunningham. Jaylen Green, first couple games was a bit slow to start, but has really picked it up recently. You want to read off his stats, Gabe?
Well, cheers. He's averaging about 17 points a game, off 5 rebounds, 3 assists, steal and a half, 3 turnovers a game, but that's to be expected right now,
Still a young guy, just turned 19, I believe.
Almost averaging the same amount of turnovers as assists. But he's shooting at 24% from 3, but again, this is probably the first time he's shooting from the actual NBA three-point range. So I take that with a grain of salt right now. Shooting 72% from free throw, but I expect that to go up. And 46 from the field.
Another versatile defender. He's a big guy, really lanky. But first thing that catches your eye is how much bounce he has. Mm-hmm. He can jump.
Yeah. He's got Vince Carter hops.
He is an athletic freak.
Yeah.
And now he's a little raw right now, but with the mid-range game he's shown, he could be something special. Now, this 2021 draft is stacked.
I see shades of young DeMar.
I see that too. Now, a lot of people are saying Eddie Jones. I think Eddie Jones is a good one. Great defender, had a little bit of game. Eddie Jones made an all-star team. Mm-hmm. A lot of other people are saying, now don't kill us, young Kobe. Now, so I don't know if he could ever get as close to Kobe. Kobe's top 10 all time, right? But the way he plays is similar to how Kobe played.
Obviously, closer to O.J. Mayo than Kobe.
I could see O.J. Mayo. O.J. Mayo was one of the best college/high school players ever.
Yeah.
But Jaylen Green is nice. He's still a little raw. Hasn't shown us as much as we'd like, but is really improving in the G League. All right, so
what do you think about him and Clyde Drexler?
Clyde Drexler. I could see that.
I think of that.
Clyde Drexler was solid.
Has that solid game.
Top 5 shooting guard of all time.
Tendencies. All right, next guy.
All right, next guy. We're going to move to someone Gabe and I both like. Again, we like most of these guys.
Yeah. I'm excited for this draft class.
Evan Mobley. Yeah. Now, I haven't seen this type of skill from a big in a couple of years. Mm-hmm. He is a big. You've seen him take up the ball. He's got great passing ability, but has a jump shot and can bang down low. Only problem I see right now is he's really thin.
Yeah, but he can build on weight. If you see how his shoulders are built, he's got broad shoulders. He's got a big frame. I don't think it'll be necessarily too hard for him.
Yeah, I think first year or two in the NBA, he has to start as the 4.
Built like a taller. Well, I'll actually get to that comp later, but I could also see him being built like a young David Robinson. That's not my comp for him, but
okay. And now, since you're talking about comps, let's get into comps. Now, you mentioned a good one to me last week.
I'll say it. He's built. I think he plays like a taller Chris Bosh with a little bit more athleticism
and rim protection.
Yeah, and rim protection. I really like his game. Let me look at his stats.
Okay, so what I like about him, I love the Chris Bosh thing. When I was thinking of comparisons for his game, I was watching a lot of Pau Gasol.
Yeah.
And I see shades of it. Obviously, he's not as good of a passer as Pau Gasol. But when you watch young Pau on the Grizzlies play, it reminds me a lot of Evan Mobley.
Yeah. Dude's averaging 17 points, 9 boards with 2 assists, a steal, and 3 blocks a game. And he's shooting 60% from the field. His free throw percentage is over 70%. So
this is good for a big.
Yeah.
I think he has a lot of potential. Yeah. The only problem I see, only flaw in his game I've seen so far, is that he is thin.
Yeah, he's 210 pounds at 7 foot.
Yeah, at 7 foot. Really light.
I could see him getting up to like 240 by the time his rookie season starts, though, honestly.
Okay. That's the only problem I have with Evan Mobley. Solid player. Gonna be I think he's going to be good in the league for a long time.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right, so let's move on to our last pick.
Another Jaylen.
Another Jaylen. Jaylens are big this draft. We got Jalen Suggs. Jalen Suggs, solid floor general. Another guy that's really smart. He gets where he needs to. Great passer. All these things. He's a solid player. Super high IQ. You got anything to add about him?
Well, his stats, since I'm the stats guy, he's averaging 14 points with 4 boards, 5 rebounds, 2 steals, shooting 51% from the field, 36% from college three, 75% from the line.
That's solid.
So take that.
How many assists did he average?
About 4.4.
Okay. So this is solid.
Bigger Chauncey Billups.
Bigger Chauncey Billups. I like that comparison. I was having a tough time trying to figure out. I saw shades of Brandon Roy, but that's
George Hill kind of a little bit.
Yeah.
Better. I think an upgrade. But
yeah. I don't think he's as good of a scorer as Brandon Roy. I think the two comparisons you have are more like it. But that should finish up, unless you have anything else to add about these guys.
No. Follow Dimes Unlimited.
Dimes Unlimited. We'll be there on Instagram. We got YouTube. We got TikTok. And we're going to try to post these to podcast networks.
We're worldwide.
Worldwide. All right, guys. That should be it. Signing out. Chase here and Gabe. All right. See you guys next time.
All right.
All right. We thought we were done with the podcast. But news just broke. Demarcus Cousins and the Houston Rockets.
Breaking news.
Demarcus Cousins and the Houston Rockets will be parting ways within the next couple days.
Crazy.
No report on what's going to happen, whether it's a buyout or a trade. But this season in 25 games, he's averaged 9.4 points and 7.6 rebounds, putting up solid numbers while Christian Wood is out. Only issue I see with Cousins is when Christian Wood was here, he was not playing great.
He was shooting under 35% from the field. He looked done, but ever since Wood got hurt, he had been improving his stock a little bit.
All right. So, first things first, let's go to the players on the Rockets that would improve.
Yeah, as far as fantasy implications go, there are some beneficiaries here because DeMarcus Cousins was eating up a good amount of minutes.
He was.
So obviously Christian Wood, once he comes back, he will continue to be an early round guy. I can see him being a top 10 fantasy player if he's the only big man in that team. Because think about it, the next best big man's PJ Tucker.
Yeah.
So. And then another one to look for is Jayshawn Tate.
Jayshawn Tate has been solid this season. You see earlier in the season, he was putting up big numbers, I think, against the Lakers. He's solid role player.
Shooting 55% on the season with 10 points, 5 boards, 2 assists, about a steal and a half a block. So, yeah, about a 3 a game, too. You can see that uptick to around maybe 12 points a game with like 7 boards, something like that with some defensive stats. So that's a name to look out for. Danwell House, who had a very good season last year as a role player before he started, being a little weird.
Yeah.
And then PJ Tucker. PJ Tucker is going to get run at the 5, especially since Wood's not back yet. He's going to get a lot of run at the 5. So for a short-term fantasy guy, pick up PJ Tucker.
All right. And then moving into the next segment, I know we haven't had a lot of time to think about it, but where do you think DeMarcus Cousins would be a good fit?
That's what I was actually going to ask you, because I could see the Raptors maybe going for him for cheap.
I could see it too.
Him going back to the Kings. I could see the Kings doing that.
I could too. Nothing surprises me with the Kings.
Maybe the Celtics for supporting minutes, but other than that, I'm not really sure.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't know if they're going to trade him. I don't think there's a lot of room for trade on the Rockets.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a buyout. But I think they're not gonna wait until the trade deadline, so maybe not a buyout. Maybe they do have a deal in mind.
They could trade him ASAP.
Because if they're gonna part ways, I would do it at the end of the trade deadline.
Yeah, again, reports are coming in right now, so we're just seeing that they won't wait till the trade deadline. Shams. All right. So where are places you could see him going? So you said Kings. You said Celtics.
Yeah.
And you said
possibly the Raptors.
All right. Now, I'm going to throw this out there. I know he doesn't help their defense, but weren't Boogie and KD good friends?
Yeah.
On the Warriors. They played together on the Warriors. I can see them. They're in desperate need of another big, right? Their backup big right now is Jeff Green, right? You need someone there, even if it's just a short term, maybe a second-round pick for him.
That may be happening.
I could see him going to the Nets.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we're not sure why Boogie wants to leave, whether it's for a better team or whether it's for more minutes. Not really sure. But I could see those 4 teams really being in contention for him.
Yeah. Man, that's shocking because I was thinking the whole John Wall thing was going to
And they were college buddies. Everyone wanted to see them together.
Yeah, for years.
Years. It was short-lived, but at least we saw a little bit of it.
I guess. Man, Boogie.
Yep. Well,
It could be the Rockets.
You got anything else to add on the Boogie?
Not really. He sounded really popular, though, so. That's it for me, really.
All right. Well, that should be it for the pod. Again, thank you guys. Subscribe to us on YouTube. We got podcasts, TikTok, Instagram.
Again, we're worldwide.
Worldwide.
Keep note.
All right. Well, thank you guys, and tune in next time.